over 1,500 geothermal systems all over eastern Iowa, clear to the borders, north, south, east, and west. And basically what it comes down to is geothermal is a very, very sustainable, renewable form, most efficient form of heating and cooling on the planet today. That's affordable, you know. And so that's, you know, why it makes sense is 100% use of electricity. We can create and generate as much electricity, wind power, solar, nuclear, you know, hydroelectric, coal, natural gas. We produce as much electricity as we can use. When it comes to your fossil fuels, obviously that's a depleting source continually, and so the price just keeps going up and up. You know, that's what makes geothermal so valuable in a sense, is that it's 100% renewable. It's new technology, but it really isn't. It's been around. You know, it's a cover of the Life magazine in an article clear back from 1948. You know, as far as the concept of utilizing the earth to heat and cool your home, clear back. You know, the big thing with geothermal is the efficiency. When we think about heating a home with electricity, we're like, damn, electricity's kind of expensive, though, right? Well, think of electric baseboard heater, electric plug-in heater. How you rate electrical appliances is what they refer to as COP, or coefficients of performance. In other words, plug in electric heater, turn it up, you buy $1 worth of electricity, you burn it through elements, you get $1 worth of heat out of it. You know, it's a 1-to-1 ratio or 1 COP. With geothermal, we're seeing COPs clear up to 5. In other words, 500% efficient. For every $1 of electricity we buy, we're getting $5 worth of work or heat out of it. Okay, neat stuff. We don't have a glass ceiling on us like the gas furnaces of today. You know, I'm a Lennox dealer as well. Our highest efficiency gas furnace today is 98.2% efficient. We'll never get to 100. We'll never go beyond 100 like this is. Why? Is because you're burning fossil fuel and there's always waste. You're gonna always have a flue or flue gases. Okay, that need to go outside the home. You know, old way. The old gas furnace, right? I ain't saying that it's 100% out there yet, but we've seen an increase in geothermal installations really starting to take off and really boom. A lot of it has to do with the tax credits and stuff, which we'll get into briefly on that too. But the new way is geothermal, guys, and why it makes sense is just it's so efficient. I mean, you take your average, 2,000 square foot ranch home, ask your folks, they're spending $300, $400, $500 a month. I can heat hot water in the same home for generally less than $500 a year with geothermal. So, neat stuff. Conventional system, 64% plus your hot water. So you got 86% of a home's energy use is heating, cooling, and heating hot water. Okay, 3% lights, 11% appliances. With geothermal, we cut that clear down to 35% for your heating, cooling, and hot water demand. Clear down to 19% heating and cooling, 16% hot water, and of course you're always going to have your appliances and your lights, which are even getting more efficient, But this is really where to make the investment into a home, is geothermal. Geothermal's, it's nothing new. It's the ability of Mother Nature to maintain a constant temperature here underground, And all we're doing with geothermal is we're putting in these plastic pipes, in the earth. We'll talk about loops, I think, real quick here, but we're putting these series of pipes in, whether it's vertical, horizontal, pond loops, and all we're doing is what's in these pipes is just 75% water that's constantly recycled. It never needs change. The water that we put in a system is going to be there 50 years from now. And 25% propylene glycol, which is a food grade additive antifreeze. Why is food grade? Well, I don't know how long does it take to deteriorate pipe. 1,000 years, 10,000 years. We don't want to contaminate water sources and whatnot. That's why we utilize a food grade antifreeze in there. Loops, we'll talk about them. There's several different types of loops. These are headers, loop headers, because what's coming out of the house is 1.25 inches. There's a supply and a return. And what's buried outside is your loop field. This is just two different styles of headers. But basically, pass it around if you want. But basically, these loops, these series of loops that we put in, we fuse them into these manifolds at 525 degrees. There's no gear clamps, there's no brass fittings, melded together. They become one, they're fused together, okay? So directional boring is a very, very popular method right now because it's the least invasive form of installing a geothermal loop in an existing home. You know, we can have a home over there 100 foot. We can sit here, we can dig a hole that's 3 foot wide, 8 foot long, take our directional boring machine, bore right underneath the foundation of this home, cut a 2 foot by 2 foot hole in the cement floor, you know, hit that hole with our boring machine, pull the 2 1/4" back to our header trench, turn the machine around, put our loops in, do our fusion, and that's all we've tore up in this person's yard. You know, pretty neat stuff. But this is directional boring to where we directional bore down, plateau off. These are the loop pipes that we put in the ground. This is 3/4 inch pipe. You can see that there's a U-bend fusion joint right at the end. The water gets down to the end, it turns around, and comes right back. And on this end, you have it's capped off and filled with dry nitrogen. There's a Schrader valve on here, so that you always know that the pipe you're putting in the ground is perfect. Another form of geothermal, when there's not a lot of lot space, tight houses, if people have just a little bit of green space, we can drill down vertically. On a vertical loop field that we go straight down, we go 150 foot to ground. 150 foot down, so the pipe goes down 150, comes back up 150, so we have 300 foot of pipe per ton. Most of these homes have anywhere from 3 to 6 ton of pipe, or 3 to 6 bore holes, or 3 to 6 directional bore holes. Here again, you can see that U-bend on there of that pipe. It all comes, you know, ready to go underground. Slinky loops are real popular in new construction because the yard's all tore up anyway, but obviously we're not going to go into somebody's, you know, nice lawn and everything else and bring in a big excavator and tear the heck out of it. You know, but new construction, we do a lot of this yet. Slinky loop, these are normally 6 to 8 foot in the ground, and it's just like a slinky. You know, it just goes all the way out, and pipe comes back, and then them get fused into them header manifolds that I pushed around. And this method here is what they call race tracking, to where they dig one big trench out and around, and they put the pipe in the ground, clear around back to the header manifold. Pond loops, we do 2 to 5 of these a year, you know, where we're floating out these same coiled pipes, you know, that are tied to a steel mat, float them out, you know, sink them, and that becomes your source of transferring heat. See, with geothermal, you know, we're just, you know, in the wintertime, we're taking the heat from the earth, bringing it in the home. In the summertime, we're taking the heat from the home, putting it back to the earth. So it's just an endless cycle, season to season. Essentially, geothermal is somewhat solar. If you think about it, the sun heats the earth 70 or 47%, you know, is absorbed by the earth. So we can maintain a constant temperature, even when it's, you know, -10 outside. Dig a hole 4 foot in the ground, it's 55 degrees, you know. Same way in the summertime, when it's 105 out, it's still 55 degrees down there. Basically, we're just, you know, cycling this glycol water to and from the home, you know, both in the wintertime when it's cold outside and in the summertime when it's hot outside. This kind of gives you an example of what people are spending on geothermal. You know, there's some that are less, there's some that are a little more, but 25 is a pretty good number. So 25 grand, and that's a lot of money, guys. $25,000 investment. Right now, the federal tax credit through 2016 is 30% that they'll pay you to do it, or $7,500. We have a brand new state tax credit this year that's good through 2016 as well. It'll pay 6% of the total. And then your utility companies, all your utility companies in Iowa are really up on you know, incentivizing people. Why? Because they sell electricity, you know. So basically, with Alliant, you get $4,000 from them. Your net investment, you know, you end up spending less than 50% of the total install cost. A brand new furnace and air is going to cost you $9,000, okay? and you're going to heat for up to an eighth the cost, third to an eighth the cost, and cool for less than half the cost, and plus you're heating your hot water. It's really a no-brainer investment if you stop and think about it. There's several different types of geo units. I'm going to pass this around quick before I get into that. This is really the heart of the, well, really the heart's the loop field that's outside, but inside this is the heartbeat of the geo unit. And basically you have your glycol and water in the inner pipe, and you have your freon flow in the outer pipe. So when we're transferring heat, you know, the reason this is rifled or spun in a certain way is this water that's coming into this, you know, we want the turbulence. You know, we don't want, if this was just smooth, it'd transfer heat just in the outer walls. But with this water really bouncing around in there, we can get maximum heat transfer with that. There's anywhere from 15 to 25 foot depending on the size of the system in the bottom of the geo unit. Yeah, that's what makes a geothermal unit very heavy. You know, that can weigh upwards of 200, 250 pounds. But it's all copper. As far as geo units, there's several different types of geo units. The most common one is forced air geothermal. You skipped a slide on me, Jeremy. There we go. Forced air geothermal, where we take out a conventional gas furnace and air conditioner and put in the geothermal unit. You know, here's the loop pump that's circulating out to the loop field. You know, the hot water heaters for the home are also tied into the geothermal unit because it can heat up to 70% of your hot water. And you use the same ducting system that you would with a conventional, you know, the conventional system. Another really popular use of geothermal is what they call water to water. This is considered water to air. You're transferring, you know, water to air. Here's water to water. So we have a storage tank, which we're either storing chilled water or heated water, depending on whether we're heating or cooling. We do a lot of radiant inflow, you know, where we pull off of the stored hot water, do radiant inflow heatings. And in cooling, you can also pull off this tank to do your cooling, as long as you have an air handler with a blower and a hydronic coil in it to take care of all your cooling. There's a couple other systems. This is a combo system. This is really unique to the industry because it'll do both forced air heating and cooling as well as hydronic heating. Why that's really neat is that maybe you're building a new home and you're doing radiant inflow in the garage. You want the nice heated floors in the garage or in the basement. That's the system for you because you can do your forced air ducted heating and cooling plus your radiant. This split system, you know, is basically, it's separated. There's no air handlers. You might have an existing gas furnace that you just bought, you know, that you want to use that for your air delivery or your backup heat. You put a heat pump coil on it, refrigerant lines between it. This is most widely used by us in a lot of these older two-story homes. We can go clear up the attic with an air handler, run refrigerant pipes to the basement to the geo unit, and take care of all the heating and cooling, you know, for the people. So there's many different forms of geo. That's about all I got.